IVM.
News Kids on the Block. We bring to you stories that top the nation's papers, fresh from the Ascended National School in IVM desk. Hi, I'm Kavya.
I'm Anya.
And I'm Trivik.
And welcome to this episode of News Kids on the Block, where we give you all the top news updates of the week. And welcome to the first episode of the new year. We hope you had a great holiday season and a great new year.
I'm just going to steal this line from Kavya before she can, but I can guarantee that Kavya is going to say, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling 2022.
I was going to say that, Anya. Good job. Let's get into today's episode. Unfortunately, it is not some great, epic, amazing news that you would want to hear to kick off the new year, but it is necessary. It is a COVID update. And as much as I wish that we could be done with these and never look at one more again, it kind of is necessary and it is a current problem. So as you guys have all heard, COVID cases all over the world are increasing. The world is going through a third wave with the Omicron variant of the virus. In fact, all schools and many things are shutting down now. And in India's active caseload has crossed the 2 lakh mark as well, which is very scary. India also recorded the first Omicron-linked death in Udaipur when a 73-year-old man passed away who had the presence of the variant in his body. The only sort of light that I see in this is the fact that teens from the age of 15 to 18 are now currently eligible to take the COVID vaccine. I, in fact, got mine, even though I'm not 15 yet. Trivik and I both born in 2007, so we are eligible for the vaccine. But I took the vaccine yesterday and I'm currently facing some side effects of weakness and body pain. But it was really well organized and I really encourage you guys to take the vaccine because it is the only way that we'll be able to fight this and overcome this. As much as it seems like it's never going to end, if we all take the vaccine, if we all stay safe, stay at home, wear masks, blah, blah, you know the drill, we will get through it. And I think before we end, I'll come to the worst part of all. As the world is dealing with Omicron and we are fighting this third wave, a new variant has been discovered in the south of France, known as the IHU variant. While the world is battling with the Omicron variant, the scientists have discovered a new variant of COVID-19 in southern France, known as the IHU variant. At least 12 cases have been reported till now, and it has been linked to travel to the African country of Cameroon. This is really scary because it's almost like 2 variants back to back. I really do hope that this does not get too serious, but we encourage you guys to get vaccinated because even though, as we've seen, the vaccination does not prevent you from getting COVID, it will help with the effects of it and the aftermath of it, which is really important in today's world to prevent deaths. I know that was a very heavy segment, so we'll take a quick break and we'll be back.
Are you looking for finance products and services that can enhance your personal finance experience? Are you looking for a space to talk about your financial product or service? And are you looking for a crisp talk show where the conversation is all about money? Well, your search ends here. Hi, my name is Anupam Gupta and I'm host of the Paisa Vaisa podcast, and I invite you for the conversation about your personal finance on each Monday on the IVM Podcast app or the website or on any podcast streaming platforms. See you folks.
Welcome back to News Kids on the Block. I'm your co-host Trivik Hariharan, and our next story for you today will be brought from, it's Anya's story actually. Daftary, you want to take us through this one?
Yes, I shall. So last week we talked about how there was a proposal to move the women's legal age of marriage from 18 to 21. Currently, women are allowed to get married at 18 and men are allowed to get married at 21. And last week, like I said, I talked about the story. We talked about the benefits, the deficits, how, it's important that the age of getting married is equal and why should women kind of by law be allowed to get married younger. But at the same time, if you can vote at 18 and you can do all of these other things at 18, why can't you get married? So anyway, they put together a 31 committee panel or like a standing committee to sort of debate and deliberate whether this bill should be existent or enacted. And really interestingly or shockingly, I don't know what the right choice of words is, there is only one female member in this 31-member parliamentary panel, and that is the TMC MP from the Rajya Sabha, Sushmita Dev. She has done a lot of work with, she's like I said, she's a Rajya Sabha member from West Bengal, and she with the Lok Sabha for a brief time as well. And she's also a member of the Indian National Congress. She was also previously the former president of the All India Mahila Congress, and she joined the Trinamool Congress in 2021. And she said in an interview that and I'm quoting her here, the standing committee will be looking at the age barrier for women for marriage. I'm the only female member in the standing committee which will be looking into it, but I will try my best to ensure that the chairman of the committee listens to every voice across the board. And I think that she did say also that I do wish there were more women MPs, but I think that my leader Mamata Banerjee has done it and sent a women MP to this committee, which is going to be considering the bill, and I am open to listening to anybody. I think that this is a really interesting point because for a bill that predominantly concerns the legal marriage age of women, there's only one woman there. And I think that it's really important for something like this because, like I said, I have two perspectives for you right now. But women who are actually getting married, at various ages in their life, different circumstances, I think that they might have more to say than just one woman. While I'm sure that Sushmita, they would do a fantastic job of representing voices, as she said. I think that it is important to understand that representation of the group that you're making a law on is something that we need to take into consideration when we're doing the same. So let's see whether this bill, what happens to it. But I think it's interesting and important to know that this is the state of how we're creating parliamentary panels at the moment. Trivik, do you want to take it away with our next story?
Our next story for you today is actually, it's positive news in a day where we've had a lot of negative stories. It is about how 5 of the world's nuclear powers, it is China, France, Russia, UK, and the US, have agreed that nuclear war cannot be won and must never be fought, and essentially have spoken out against nuclear war and the use of nuclear weapons. So on Monday, these 5 superpowers met and together they issued a statement or a pledge which entails that the first thing they said is that a nuclear war cannot be won and must never be fought, and they believe strongly that the further spread of such weapons must be prevented. This is a step in the right direction. Nuclear weapons are extremely dangerous, extremely harmful, and the use of them should be abolished completely. And not only them, but weapons in general. There is never a winner in war, but that is a completely different discussion. This is a step in the right direction, and I hope we keep seeing further progress just like this.
Thanks, Trivik. On that note, the next story that we have for you today on world population. So a recent US Census Bureau report projected that the world's population is supposed to be 7.8 billion on New Year's Day 2022. And according to the Economic Times, that would represent an increase of 74 million people or a 0.9% growth from New Year's Day 2021. And they also said that starting in the new year, 4.3 births and 2 deaths are expected worldwide every second. And they said that from New Year's Day 2021 to 22, the estimate represents a 0.2% growth rate. They also said that alongside this data, that in the US specifically, the population is supposed to grow by 1% every 40 seconds minus death, as well as net international migration. And the US specifically, again, is supposed to experience a birth every 9 seconds, a death every 11 seconds, and an additional person into their country from international migration every 130 seconds. And I think that what all of this information is a product of is just understanding how our population is growing at such an alarmingly rapid pace. And as a planet, we've known this for a while now, us not necessarily having the resources in order to ensure that every person can live their best life, if you will. I think the birth and the death rates will kind of constantly change and move around, and that's sort of expected. But the statistic that surprised me the most, or just to have a statistic like that, I thought was so interesting about the international migration. Our Earth, of course, has so many different resources, but until and unless we're able to channel those resources properly in order to help our population, having a growing population might not be of any use. When you have a whole load of the world's population, still living in poverty, which we can see firsthand in India, just in terms of the disparity, I think that it is really important to take notice of it and to understand how we can balance out populations.
Yeah, and I completely agree. Like you said, with world population going up and resources decreasing, it is definitely a scary thought. But I think with scientific progression and scientific achievements, we will be able to figure out more efficient ways of doing things. But that still is a very scary thought to think about the fact that population will be growing so quickly at such a fast rate. With that, we'll take a short break and we'll be right back with a story that I cannot wait to do.
Hey, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. This week on Shunya One, Shiladitya and I talked to Sumit Shah. He's the founder and CEO of Dukaan, an e-commerce platform where merchants can set up their shops using their smartphones. This is being used by a lot of kirana shop owners throughout the country and is a really interesting conversation for you to listen to. On Say No to Drama, Chetna is here to talk about the importance of living in the present. This week on Khel Niti, Madan Lal recalls the 1983 World Cup and reviews the film 83 with our host Rajiv Mishra. On Football Shitball, Siva, Sapre and Karthik talk about the latest Premier League matches, Ramos getting his first red card for PSG and Barcelona's draw with Seville. And on Pulyabazi, Pranay and Saurabh try to figure out why India has not been able to become the world's electronics supplier. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. If you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, do tell a friend. The word of mouth absolutely is essential to us. Don't forget to rate us on any of the platforms that you've been listening to. And also, I'd like to ask everybody to check us out on YouTube. We have a number of channels going. You can find all of them on ivmpodcast.com/YouTube. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Cred, Bank of Baroda, CoinSwitch, Kuber, and Intel. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Welcome back to News Kids on the Block, where we bring to you all the top news updates of the week. We are back with Kavya, who is giving us a movie update on something that, just FYI, I was super hyped about last week. Just putting that out there. Anyway, Kavya, carry on.
It was very unnecessary, Anya. But okay, it is about one of the best movies that I've watched ever, which is not single all. Consider that I don't watch many movies, but it is about the movie 83, which released a couple of weeks ago. And I watched it in theaters, and I have to say, genuinely one of the best movies I've ever watched for several reasons. I think one of the best things about this movie is that you could be someone that knows nothing about cricket, but you still enjoy it. I've had a couple of friends that have watched it, being people that don't really care about cricket, and even they've loved it. I think that's one of the best parts of the movie. Then let's get into the actual movie itself. I think this movie sparks a sense of patriotism within you when you're watching it that you never knew existed, and that you never knew could be as hyped as it was watching that movie. You know, and most people, everyone who watched it knew what was going to happen in the end, but still at no moment was it like boring or disengaging at any point. The actual movie itself focused on Kapil Dev, but it was also centered around everyone in the team and not only him. The cast was so on point. Like, most people in the cast look like the actual cricketers in real life. And I think the part of the movie that I enjoyed the most was that even though it was purely like a cricket movie and mostly focused on cricket, at no point did it get like it was too focused on cricket. There were elements of different things here and there, but it wasn't at any point like too boring because it was only about cricket. Even for person who does not care about cricket that much, it still was a really, really good movie. So I definitely recommend that you guys go watch it. It is not to be missed, and genuinely you will not regret watching it.
Yeah, Kavya, I think that one of the things about like that movie is just based on like the real sort of emotions that came with that 83 World Cup. And while it was quite a while back and none of the three of us were at least alive for it, my point being, I think one of the really nice things about the movie was just I went with my parents and they were both just kind of reliving watching it at like wherever they were, and you know how like the TV went out in the middle and they they both like really got into it. And especially in my house, like all of us really enjoy cricket. Like even when my mom was younger, when my dad was younger, everyone like just loves cricket. So I think that was really beautiful to watch. I joked saying that like when Kapil Dev went mad and made the world record, the movie is the closest they're ever going to get to like watching the highlights of that, since it was never broadcasted. But I think another really beautiful thing about that movie is it was super simple. Like if you think about it, of course the production stuff was of high value, etc. But the way in which like each character was played, there was just a certain simplicity to the movie which kind of pulled away and in some sense made it a little bit offbeat from your average Bollywood movie. And I think that's what made the movie so special, because it was just so honest and to the truth of what that story was, or at least what it was echoed with by the people around me.
I think one of the best parts about it was that it truly showed the impact that the World Cup had on people around the world, what their situation was, and how the World Cup really helped them get distracted from that situation. And Trivik is going to hate me for this, but I 100% believe that this movie deserved a billion times more hype than that Spider-Man got, because it was just mind-blowing. Like I cannot explain how good it was.
I think what is beautiful about it is that it was real. And
Yeah, not some like guy who can shoot webs out of his hands.
okay,
Like,
Kavya's got some stuff against Spider-Man.
Guys, I think we should, every Spider-Man fan out there, cancel Kavya. We want Kavya to get cancelled.
and every cricket fan out there cancel Trivik, even though most cricket fans probably like Spider-Man also, but whatever. Okay, yeah.
Kavya, isn't your hatred for Spider-Man a little concerned?
Yeah, I think it is, considering that I've never watched it.
Considering that Rishabh Pant is your favorite cricketer, like, isn't that a bit like odd? Isn't that a bit contradictory?
That's fine. That's okay. It's okay. I'm happy to admit it that I don't like Spider-Man, even though I've never watched a single Spider-Man movie.
Okay, Rishabh Pant may not like you back anymore. I mean, man was Spider-Man like a year
That's
ago.
because he knew of my existence for so long. Okay, and with that, Trivik will take us into the most boring segment of the show.
Well, this is actually quite a good segment. It is about a show which I watched over our 1 week break. You know, how many man hours we put in. We don't really get to watch shows anymore, you know, such hardworking children. But I watched a show called How I Met Your Mother. And I'm not done with it, obviously. It's got like 9 seasons. But I started watching it and I have to say...
Trivik, you're so slow, man. What a disappointment. You should really like work harder when you're watching.
9 seasons in a week. Wow. Lovely.
I did 9 seasons in 2 weeks. So...
Well, anyways, it is a really good show. It is told from the perspective of the main character, not the main character, one of the main characters, Ted, telling his children the story of how he met their mother. And it is told in such detail over 9 seasons, and it is funny. It's got emotional moments as well. It's got literally everything you could want from a show. And it is turning out to be one of my favorites. I'm only 2 seasons in, but it is still really, really good. I highly recommend it. It is rated 14 and above. It's on Hotstar in India, and I'm sure you can Google and find out where it is if you're not viewing from India. Amazing show. Highly recommend it.
And that will be the last segment of today's episode. We hope you enjoyed this episode of News Kids on the Block. Don't forget to tune in to us every Friday for our fresh take on the news from across the globe.
If you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other podcasts on the IVM network.
You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on our social media. We are at IVM Podcast on Twitter and Instagram.
We'll see you next week. But till then, do share this episode with your folks. Stay safe. And don't forget to do your homework.
Habits? Routines? How exactly do they help us get better? Well, to simplify it for you, tune in to the Habit Coach podcast. I am Ashton Doctor, and I'm going to be here to help you get better daily with some simple, easy to do habits that you can easily adapt to your life. So tune in to the Habit Coach podcast from Monday to Friday, because I believe that awesome lives start with awesome habits.
Namaste, this is Cyrus Brocha. I am part of the government cancel culture program to remove rubbish off all the different streams available. So what we have is all the collected rubbish we put together on our show. It's called Cyrus Says. It's on IVM Podcasts. You have to watch it and listen to it. It's on our app. It's on our website. It's on the YouTube channel. It's on Facebook. There are many different ways. Don't bother me and ask me how. You have to find out. We talk to different personalities. Many of them are known. Some are just people we meet downstairs and invite them up for chai. But the point is, it's fun and it's very therapeutic. So please join in and listen to Cyrus Says.